Welcome to Living a Life by Design. It's the journey back to you and living 365 days of purpose with your host, Esther Graham. Did you know your accountability and possibility is by design? God designed a phenomenal life for you, gave you the gift of choice. Esther helps empower you to discover and pursue the purpose that is already in you. Are you ready to look at yourself and see your future? Then get back to what is really important in life and get in alignment with your true self. Stay tuned to Living a Life by Design. Journey back to you and start living 365 days of purpose with your host, Esther Graham. It all starts now.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Esther here, and welcome to another podcast of Living a Life by Design. And today, guess what? You just get me. Yay, 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 yay. So I just want to talk about just a few things, honestly, that's just been on my heart and on my mind, and I'm just going to share. And when you hear this, if there's anything that resonates with you, I really want you to lean in, even type in the chat, reach out to me and let's connect and let's talk. Reach out to me with any questions or anything that you have, because I'm sure that some of the things that I'm thinking about, that you're thinking about as well. I'm sure that some of the things that I'm experiencing, that you're experiencing it as well. So this is just a moment of sharing. Like I said, I just want to share my heart and my mind. And here we are. This is what, in the month of we're in summer. Let me just put it that way. We're in summer. And so we're almost, after summer comes fall and then winter, and then we're back to the beginning of the next year. And so, many times we look, many times look, and I think about, well, where am I on this journey right now? Like what am I doing? What am I doing right now? And I always tend to look at the timelines of everything. We're pretty soon, I think, are we maybe about 6, maybe 5, or maybe 7 months out. I'm not, not not really, sure with the months of where we are. But I began to look honestly about where I am and what I'm doing. And so I just want to share. Got to pull my cell phone up, right? Because I make notes to myself, and I want to just share some things that, again, that's just on my heart and my mind as I look back at what my journey has been in this year, in 2026 so far, what I've done, what I've not done, and what are some of those decisions that I made for my life. And I want to share some of those things with you, because I think that many times we are running around and we're doing so many things. We're showing up all the time. We're always showing up for other people, but sometimes we don't show up for ourselves the way that we should. And so one of the things that I have really been practicing, so I'm just going to go back, to when I started the month of January. As many of I'd lost my grandlove. My granddaughter lived for 55 minutes in December. And so it's been a very difficult time for my family. And so we've just been processing and going through healing, going through all of that together, knowing that He always has a plan. He always knows what's best. And so, but sometimes, even though you may know that, it's still something that's hard to swallow. And so it was hard for us as a family, to have our granddaughter Eden only lived for 55 minutes and then left this earth. So when I began to look at that, and as we're going through the healing process and going through everything, I began to look at, from all of these lessons, what is it that I can learn from a lot of the lessons? Because, after there's so many things going on, that happened, and then a second thing happened, then a third, and then, then there's challenges in your business, or in my business, there was challenges and just so many things. And I thought, oh my gosh, life is just coming at me. And I wasn't sure, honestly, if I had the bandwidth or to just even handle all of it. So, what's my lesson? What is it that I can learn from this? And one of the things, I began to think about what is it that I needed to do. So for me, I in the month of January, my daughter and I, we went through a whole 21 days of fasting and praying. And so for me, that's a very strong foundation. And normally I start that my year off with that anyway, but this year it took a different turn, and it looked different, and it really changed a lot of things. And so that was really one of the foundational pieces that I had for myself. The other thing is when I look at what I learned, I learned from fasting and praying that number one, I probably need to do that just a little bit more. Honestly, let me just be transparent. While I do that, that's a part of my regimen. I have to admit that I did slack up on it a bit. And I found that in that month, I really needed it a lot. Since moving from that, going through the rest of the months, I'm looking at the lessons that God really has for me in this season, this stage of my life. And I think it's good for all of us to look at that lesson. Things are changing in the world regularly. It's going so, so fast that it's hard for us to keep up. It's not just changing in our outside world, but it's also, for me, it was also changing internally. And I know that the only world that I can really control is my internal world. I really can't control my external world. But the things that I can, I said, I need to begin working on that. I began to think about this theory. I know many of you have heard it: E plus R equals O, which is that the event happens. E means the event. So the event happens, something happens, right? Plus R. R is the response. What is your response? And that equals O. And so the O is the outcome. And so this event happens many times, we don't control the event. For example, my grandlove, you know, um, transitioning, right, to heaven, um, plus my response equals the outcome. And so when I think about, my response with that, how did I feel? What did I look? How? Because the outcome would be would be based on my outcome. The response is what I controlled. And so I had to make sure I had the appropriate response, and not just in that, in everything moving forward. This is where, for me, E plus R equals O. While I've always used it, always, this is when it became like very real. Like, whoa, what is my response to all of these things that's happening, all of these events that's happening in my life that I absolutely have no control over? But what I do control is my response. And so, what is the outcome I want? And so, I began to think, okay, this is happening. What's my response going to be based on what is the outcome that I want? And I want you to think about that. There's a lot of things that's going on in your life right now. As we're moving through the rest of the year, events are going to happen. They're going to continue happening. Things that you just don't control, that outer world. But then what you do control, your response. What are you doing with that? Because that's going to be based on the outcomes you will receive. And so I kind of work backwards in terms of this. What is the outcomes I want? And then what is the response I want to have? And so I've been very intentional, even more than before, is to look at what my response is and what's my response? Because this is the outcome that I want. And I think about where I think about, well, when I think about my response, let's say, I think about, what's my spiritual foundation? The one thing that I know for sure, at least in my life, that my spiritual foundation is what is that glue that holds me together. Spiritual enrichment, spiritual development, all of that is so important. That's a part of your inner world. And I believe that we are more spiritual than we are natural. We're more spiritual. And so if we could just focus in on our spiritual life, that really helps us to navigate everything else in the outside world. That's our response that then brings the proper outcomes that we desire. And so that has really been my focus. So what I have done was that I'm on again that journey back to me. Not, I know who I am. I know who I'm called to be. I know my purpose. I know that I operate in intentionality, but sometimes life happens, right? I don't know if that's just me, but if that's you, and you're listening to this podcast right now, comment and say, yeah, life happens. And how is life happening to you? Life happened with me, lost my grandlove. We go into the new year. We're still healing from that. Then challenges with in business, challenges with employees, but all kinds of crazy stuff, let's say. It's like, oh my God, where's all this happening? Yet on one side, I had all these, I've got all these challenges going on. And then the other side, I've got all these great things going on. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so much living in duality that there's a part of it that was like, I wish this would stop so I could just live right here, and always just have the good things going on, and the good feeling, and oh, I'm doing this, and all that's great, but it doesn't always happen. And so what I made a decision to do is that instead of chasing other things, I said it's time for me to go back in and to begin to realign. I'm already aligned, but let me just not say realign. Some of us may need to realign. I want my alignment to go deeper, an alignment even deeper with God, with my spiritual life, my spirituality, an alignment with what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do, alignment with the people I'm going to connect with, right? Those people I'm going to connect with will be at a deeper level. And I began to think about who is around me, what's my circle, what's not serving me anymore, and what are the lessons I could learn from all of this, and what is it that I need to change, adapt, or anything. I really began to think about that, and I began to make notes. Let me just look at this. What is this area of my life? You guys know, with the Life by Design framework, one of the parts is spirituality, it's relationship, it's your finances, it's your 7 areas, it's your growth, it's your health, your wellness, it's all of those things. And so I began to just really look at those pillars to see, where am I in alignment? Like, what's, from 1 to 10, where am I? Right? Am I at a 5? Am I at a 6? Am I at a 1? And where is it that I need to grow, and how can I grow? And so I began to get just really very specific as to what I want to do and what I don't want to do, who I'm going to align with, not align with, speaking engagements. What is an alignment? And so what happened is I just began to say, no, I'm not going to do this. Listen, no is a complete sentence. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm going to shut this down at this time. No, I need to change this. Oh, yes, this is great. Really begin to look at it, because I know that I don't control my outside world, right? I don't control the event, let's say. And then there's my response, E plus R, my response. And I want the outcome. So I really began to focus on what my response is to everything. To everything I'm doing. And I have to tell you that sometimes with some things that was going on, my response was not great. Let me just be it was not great. And I have to collect myself and say, ooh, that wasn't a good response. And that's why you have the outcome that you have. So I really began to focus on, how am I responding to situations I don't control? Because what I have found in this season, there's a lot of things that I don't control that's happening, but I'm concerned about. There's a lot of things that's happening in the world. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of people that's still hurting. A lot of people that still need coaching. They still need mentorship. There's a lot of marriages out there that still need, just help to get through, to navigate through a situation. There's a lot of things out there. And what I also found that people began to just reach out and say, hey, can you walk with me through this? Can you mentor, can you coach me through this? Can you coach me through that? And what was really great about that is that as I listened to them, I said, you know what? I'm going to either help work with this person or not, based on where they are and based on where, let's say, where I'm aligned and where they are. Because what I've discovered is that I have to have alignment is important to me. That's a part of my response that will actually give me the outcomes that I so much desire. So I want you to think about wherever you are in your life right now, as we're moving through the months, are you in alignment? You know, how are you? You've got things going on. There's events that's happening. I want you to take the time. That's the first, and then look at your response, right? And then look at the outcomes that you have been getting. Is that really the outcome that you want? And if that's not the outcome that you want, then you want to go back and look at what your response is. I had to do that. Oh, that's not the outcome. Let me go back and look at my response because this is what I control. And then what you can then begin to do is say, um, let me look at my response. How is it that I need to change my response? So let me also add something here. Many times, especially when it's in a relationship, we're always looking at the other person. How about you look at you? It's always easiest for us to say, this person's got, no, it's that person. But how about if we look at ourselves first? Because sometimes our response is based on where we are right now. If we're not in a good headspace, then we're going to have a response that's not going to bring a good outcome. And so I have a rule. If I'm struggling, let's say in a relationship, or I'm struggling in finances, I'm struggling as a leader, I'm struggling in my business, I'm struggling in this, my health and my wellness, any of those things where I'm, let's say, not struggling, but maybe have challenges, or I feel very limited. I begin to look at me. What is my response to all of this? When my doctor said this, that, and the other, what was my response? That's going to give me the outcome that I want. If I don't have the outcome, then maybe you need to go back and do exactly what the doctor says. So those are just very simple and honestly really broad ideas. But I really want you to begin to look as you move through. I guarantee you one thing, that when you begin to look at what you control, which is your response, your inner world, what you control, then it will bring a different outcome. And then if you're thinking, well, I don't know what I do control. Yeah, you do know. You do know. You do know. Sometimes we just have to bring our emotions in check. You know what I mean? We got to bring and not make emotional decisions. What I discovered is that there was a couple of times I made an emotional decision. And for me, when I make emotional decisions, it is not a good decision because normally I'm in a heightened emotional state. And you don't want to be that. So what is your response? To whatever is going on in your life? Listen, look at yourself first. Look at what your response is and what it could be and how it can change. That will give you the outcome that you desire. What are the lessons that you're learning from all of your challenges that you're having? What are those lessons? And let's say things are going great in your life and everything is lining up and this is it. This is your season and it's all going wonderful, great. But then also look at what are the lessons that you're learning? What are those good lessons that you're learning? Are you learning what to do and what not to do that can continue to bring you the success that you want, to take you into that next season, to that next level? I talk about how your next is now. We always thought my next. No, your next is right now. Because it's based on what you are doing. You are developing and you're setting up your next. And that's what, I'm in the mindset with everything that's going on right now that I am developing and my next is right now. And based on what I do now will determine where I am, let's say 30 days from now, let's say 5 days from now. Whatever that is, based on what I'm doing now. So my next is right now. Right now, meaning the decisions that I make, the things that I do will affect what my next is. Make sense? Yeah. All right. So we're going to go on a quick break and I'll be right back.
Festa della Donna with Esther Graham honors all women.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living a Life by Design, a journey back to you. I'm still on that journey. I'm still going back to me. I'm going to the core level of who I am, who I was created to be, in everything, in every area of my life. And today, y'all just have me, no guests, nobody else, just me. And I just want to share some of my thoughts that I've had over the past few months. And so, listen, if anything, again, agrees with you or you understand or you're like, yeah, me too, go ahead and lean into what I'm saying and go ahead and type in the chat when you're listening, or you're saying, well, I don't want to type in the chat, but I want to reach out to you. Then my email and all of the information will be there to where you can reach out to me. So let me just bring up a couple notes so I could share. So I ended with talking about how your nexus now, and I talked about E plus R equals O, right? And so what I've discovered that wherever my next is, right, my next season is going to require a different me. So what happens is many times we expect to go into our next, right? Your next is now, based on what you're doing now, it leads you to your next, right? The same way. But that can't happen. Your next season is going to require a different you. And that requires for you to set it up and work on it right now. Hope that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. And so some things that you want to talk about, like for me, I know that my season is requiring a different me. That doesn't necessarily mean that I do more. Doesn't necessarily mean I do more. For me, it means I pull back, and the things that I am doing, let me perfect it more, or let me focus on it more. Let me be more intentional about it. Let me be more purposeful about it, right? Because sometimes less is more, right? And so many times when we're doing things and we're busy, we're entrepreneurs, we're CEOs, we're managers, wherever you are, you may be at home, wherever you are in your life. You may think doing more is what brings you success. And what I want to say is doing more is not bringing you, it's not going to bring you more success and more success. And could it be that what you should be doing now is working on your spiritual development, working on your personal development, so you could be prepared for your next season? Because where you're headed to requires a different you. It requires a deeper capacity. It requires more faith. It requires strength. It requires clarity. And so you have, as you're moving into that, you're going in as a different you. And so you've got to work on those things right now. Because what I have found out, and you all may very well know this, that different things don't come to you until you are ready for it. Right. And the reason you have to be ready, have you ever, I like to use sometimes the story of the lottery winners, they win the lottery and they've won millions and millions of dollars and all of those different things. And sometimes it doesn't last because they weren't ready for it, right? They just weren't ready. They didn't know how to manage it. They didn't know about investments. They didn't know a lot of things. And so they squandered it, and it's gone. It's gone. They were not ready. And so for your next season, to where you're going, right? Where God is taking you to, what you're saying, I'm called to do this. This is my purpose here on earth, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Then it could require something different. And I want you to really begin to look at that, because your next season, where you're headed to, has to be worked on right now so you could have the growth and the capacity to handle that. If not, you can delay it because you're just not ready. So I want to be like, I don't know if some of you may have heard of TD Jakes. He's I'm sure he's got a podcast, he's got TV shows, all these different things. He always says, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. So you have to get ready right now for where you're headed to. You can't wait and say, well, I'll get ready when I get there. No, that means that you're not going to get there. So your next season could just be required, just a different you, not doing more, but going deeper, stretching further, and saying, these are the things I really need to focus on, and that's what's going to take you into your next. So here are some things I want you to think about, right? That as you're looking at your success, do you have goals? And what I want to say to that is that many times we think that success is having goals, and that's a part of it, but that's not all of it. Success isn't just having my 3 to 5 year goals. And I'm not saying don't plan and don't set your goals, don't set your intentions. Really, I like to call it your intentions. Don't set your intentions. Of course, set your intentions, but that doesn't define, that's just one area. And that doesn't necessarily define totality in success, right? Your success is do you still have your joy despite what the challenges are? Do you still have your joy? I think about Chanel, right? Who lost her husband to cancer, and she constantly talks about joy and finding joy, and how she had to find joy in the midst of her pain. It's possible to find joy in the midst of your pain. So success means, can I still find that joy? Can I still find that peace? I listen to different people who are challenged, and not just the everyday person, not just my clients I listen to. I listen to everyone. I think about Savannah Guthrie, whose mom was kidnapped, and to this day they can't find her. And of course, she's probably not even alive. But when she talked about it, she said, in the middle of this, I have found joy. And so part of that for me is, in the middle of it, I found joy. When my grandlove passed away, I was able to find joy. I didn't find it right away. I got to tell you, I was in pain. I did not find it right away. But then I made the intention. What does success mean for me? What is the response I want to have? And I began to seek joy. I began to seek peace in the middle of the challenges. So I want you to think about that. What does success look like for you? And to think that it's more than just setting your goals. And then I want you to also think about that growth sometimes requires subtraction and not addition. Oof. Let me tell you, that's something that I was like, whoa, it doesn't require addition, because many times when we're thinking about growth, we're thinking about, because we're thinking adding, but growth doesn't necessarily mean adding more things to your calendar, adding more goals rather, I'm sorry, setting more intentions. Maybe it's taking some things off. Maybe it's subtraction, and then just focusing on the things that not what's important to you. Sorry, y'all, maybe I'm just talking too fast. It's just getting all bungled up. Not what is important to you, but what's most important to you, right? There's a difference. There's a lot of things that's important to me, but many times I ask myself, what's most important to me? Like, what's got that top priority? And it may be one or two things. This is important, but this is most important. So I'm going to focus on this first, right? And so I want you to think about that. And then, of course, having the courage. For me, having the courage to just let go of some things, right? Having the courage to let go and say, this is what worked in my last season. This is not going to work now. Think about some things that's going on right now in our world. There are some things that worked last year, but it's not going to work this year because times have changed. People have changed. Culture has changed, and it's continually changing. Listen, we are living in a sea of change. It's always moving. It's always changing, right? And so what exactly is that, and having the courage, the wherewithal to say, I need to now let go of this, because many times you can't hold on to that past. You can't hold on to that if you're going to go and take it into your future. You got to let it go, right? Or it will hold you back. It will be a weight, and it's a weight that you have to let go of, and you can't carry it into the next, right? And then then living intentionally and not reactively. Ooh, that's a big one. Is again, I have a office sign in my, well, a sign in my office that says, live every day with intention. Live every day. In other words, don't be reactive. Wake up in the morning and say, today I'm living in intention. What is it that you have for me to do today? What am I intending to do today? And then finding joy in every day, finding joy. And sometimes you could say, this has just been a day. Many of us have had that. Finding joy. But when you wake up in the morning, say, how am I living, or how am I going to live today with intention? And so making sure that you add that success, right? We're looking at different definitions, how you can define success. I'm just sharing with you some of the ways that I define success for me is living my day with intention and not being reactive. I have to work on that quite a bit. Not living in intention, but being reactive and say, "Oh, I'm reacting to this situation. This is not intentional living right here." So, how could I just live every day with intention and be proactive about some things? Looking at, again, going back to how am I responding to this that was designed to throw my day off? But what I'm not going to do is allow it to do that. So I'm going to live by intention and I'm not going to react to what's going on right now. Right. And so what I want to say is as you're moving towards this year, as you're going through the ending of the year, I want you to think about what are the efforts that you're making. I just want to read a note that I have to myself that your next season, your next is now, what you're doing right now brings you to your next, may not require more effort. It may just require more alignment with yourself, your spiritual alignment with God, alignment with what you're doing, what serves you, and the things that don't serve you, move it out. The relationships that are no longer serving you, begin to, so you don't have to announce, I'm removing you out of my, no, just begin to slowly move. You don't have to make an announcement. This doesn't align with what I believe anymore. This doesn't align with where I want my life to go anymore. This doesn't align with my new season, the season that I'm in right now. It doesn't align. And so because it doesn't align, I need to move those things out of it. And so I just want to just drop just some nuggets with you today and hope that you can, you've made notes, you've written it down, that you're enjoying it. And then I just want to take a few minutes to share about what's coming up next in Life by Design that I'm so super excited about. And then again, what you're going to hear, what I'm saying, I'm bringing myself and I'm bringing what I'm doing in even my coaching practices, my mentoring practices. I'm bringing everything that I just spoke about. And I only skimmed the board, y'all. I only shared with y'all just a little, but I'm bringing it all into alignment. I'm bringing it all into alignment. And so one of the things, of course, our marriage mentorship program has began, and we're so excited. It's a small group of couples, and this program is designed for the person who's married, and they're like, whether you're married 1 year or you're 50 something odd years, it's like, listen, I just want my marriage to be enriched more. I want it to be enriched more. And so, you go through, we've got the monthly mentorship program, and then we've got the one-on-one coaching. That's you and your significant other, you and your spouse, to come together. And my husband and I, and we have another excellent mentor coach that mentors you through whatever it is that you want to discuss and what you want to do. And so I will tell you that the mentorship program is phenomenal. It's a 6-month program. The first session was this past Saturday. So what I'm going to say to you, if you're interested, it is not too late for you to sign up. It's not too late for you to reach out and get information and join us before we get too far deep. And everything is recorded. So if you say, oh, I'm not going to be able to make a session, then you can listen to recording. But if you can, go ahead and join us. Then the next thing that's coming up, right, is the October retreat, which is in Costa Rica from the 4th through the 11th. I'm so super excited about that again, because this is a time we're taking a small group to Costa Rica. And this is a time of rebuilding. It's a time of realignment. It's a time just for you to retreat. What I have found is that when you go to a retreat, this is a part of you just finding yourself, coming together with a group of powerful people that are ready to go deeper in their alignment, that's ready to go even deeper in setting more intentions. And what I found that everyone, when you come in one way in the retreat, you leave a different way. You're now, if you're saying, I want to write a book, by the time you leave, you're ready to write that book. Why? Because there's breakthroughs, right? You get clarity. And you also just really meet great people that you can say, oh, this could be my community. This, I can be in alignment with this. And so it's October 4th through the 11th, and everything will be, where uh, will be in the link where you can access anything about the retreat. And then coming soon, and we don't know the dates for this as yet, is that we will be doing a masterclass, let's say, in the Life by Design community. So if you have not joined the Life by Design community, you want to join the Life by Design community, and it will be a spiritual enrichment class, because we're all trying to discover who we are inward, because I think everyone is finding out that my spiritual life is, in order for me to really be, not even be balanced, but really live my life in harmony, that I've got to be spiritually connected. I've got to be connected to myself. I've got to be spiritually connected. And so the spiritual enrichment class will be or the spiritual enrichment studies, or whatever you want to, you name it, workshop, masterclass, will be in the Life by Design community. And we're going to get more information out to you and soon. And one last thing is that I've opened back to where I will be doing executive coaching, basically one-on-one coaching. And of course, you have to apply for it. And so if you're interested in any of those things, reach out to us, reach out to me. If I don't get back with you, one of my team members will get back with you, and we will make sure that we get you all of the information that you need. I hope that what we have discussed today is something that you could take and that you could actually activate it in your life. And what I want to just really encourage you to do is, as you're moving through this year, begin to look at what's happening. What is that event? What is your response? And really, what is the outcome? And then go back and say, I want this outcome. So I need to look at what response I'm going to have towards this. And then begin to look at, what does success look like for you, right? It's not just about money. It's not just about business, right? It's about some deeper things that bring success. There's a lot of people, they may have a lot of money, business will be going great, but they don't feel successful, right? They don't feel successful. Why? Because they're missing that inner peace. They're missing that inner joy. As a matter of fact, now what they're even doing, they're not happy with it. Because why? It's because now it's time to move to not doing more, but going to a deeper level. And so I want for you to begin to think about, where is that? What is that deeper? What's that thing that I just really want to dig deep into, so I can just create that life by design that is just there for me? And I just want to encourage you to do that. I hope this podcast helped you. Next time we will have our special guest on there. I love you guys. Take care. God bless, and continue to enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye.
You have been listening to Living a Life by Design, the journey back to you, and living 365 days of purpose with host Esther Graham. Listen or watch live every second and fourth Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com. Discover that what is possible is already in you. God designed a phenomenal life for you. Esther helps you ignite that energy behind your personal journey for a deeper joy and peace, living 365 days of purpose. For more information on living a life by design, visit fddwomen.com.